Hey, welcome back to Stark Reality Garage. Hey, one thing I noticed online, looking at videos and things, there aren't any videos about doing a cold air intake on a Jeep with a 2.5 liter engine. There's a bunch for the 4s, but didn't really see any for the 2.5s. Doing some research, there's probably a reason for that. It really doesn't need a cold air intake. There's more than enough air that flows through. There's plenty of information out there done by the magazines and all sorts of different people that there is enough air going through the regular air box to service the engine. The engine doesn't need more air than's there. But I need to put one in because I don't have room for my current air box with the upgrade I'm doing. So let me show you what my problem is. And I think this cold air intake setup will give me the room that I need, but let me show you the problem. All right, so here I am. I'm halfway through the install on my new brake system. And one of the things I realized was as I went to put my new master cylinder on that I ran out of room. Between here, where the master cylinder goes and where my air box goes, I just ran out of room. So I'll slap these things together and show you really quick and what my problem is. But that's the gist of it. Let me put it all in here and I'll show you. All right, so I put the airbox back in. I never minded this airbox. The only thing I ever worried about was the fact that the intake was pretty low. It's up here underneath your headlight, and when I get into some deep water. But, you know, never really run into a big issue. So with the extension and the new double diaphragm, this just isn't going to fit. So, you know, that's got to go on there. This is certainly bigger than the original, but there's no way that this all can fit in there. It just, no matter how I looked at it, it just doesn't fit. So, the new air intake will have me moving the power steering reservoir and then, you know, closing off this, pulling out the intake right here, and then with a little block off piece that goes to about right here. So I think by doing that and then I have it drop in over here on the side, I should have room. So wish me luck, and we'll put it in and see how it goes. All right, so in this kit, now this is an eBay kit that I got 110 bucks or so. It's got the air filter, the various hardware, the pipes, the kind of block off plate piece, and some ridiculously bad instructions. Which really are not specific to this at all. But to be perfectly honest, this is exactly the same kit that Rugged Ridge sells for $240. So I went to Quadratech and pulled their instructions, which are a lot better. So maybe that's what you're paying for your extra 130 bucks. But near as I can tell, it's essentially the exact same kit. So I'm going to use these instructions to follow along and see if I can't figure out how to put this thing. Not that I really probably need them, but make sure I don't forget anything. So here we go. All right, so the first two things you got to do is obviously remove all the intake off, which I had already done. Remove the whatever's connecting your power steering pump to your radiator. Here, mine were two 11mm bolts holding that on. And then I'll disconnect this. It's like a 15mm, and just so you can rotate out of the way. I think that'll just make things a lot easier, this support bar. All right, so I swapped out this hose. This is the first thing you got to do is put a longer hose on the power steering reservoir because you're going to relocate it. And that's the low pressure side, so it's not a big deal. You got clamps on either end. I just turned it upside down and swapped this one out, and then flipped it right back up. Held the hose over the top so it was kind of pinched out of the way. Got the bottom disconnected and then swapped them out. So it's not complicated. I'll refill it, and got a rag handy to clean up the little mess, the spillage. There might be some easier way, but that was pretty quick and easy. I didn't lose that much. All right, so I've been plugging along here, and I'm pretty much done. I will say these instructions that came with the Rugged Ridge unit, they are the same. It's the same equipment. There's nothing really different. The only thing I found different, you do need to use some spacers down here to get this to mount. I think that's primarily because of the 1-inch motor mount lift, which does leave me with a gap right here. My hoses can go under it, I guess. I mean, normally I would think that would be up nice and flush if I could have mounted it flush, but stuck because of I had to raise the radiator shroud. So it still works out. Now, what I haven't mounted is the power steering pump. You do need spacers to fill this little gap right here, and it mounts onto here. I got to go to the store and get some bolts that'll fit, because there was only one set of bolts. Luckily, I had an extra set of spacers that I remembered I had, so you kind of need 2 sets of spacers for something like this. It does have this extra bolt hole here that doesn't go to anything. I'm not sure what that's for, but it's just kind of there. The piping, it's a little challenging to get it the way you want it, but if you just fiddle with it for a little while, you'll be okay. And you do get a new hose, vent hose for your in case, and then you just reconnect up the hose here, the vacuum hose, and you're good to go. The other little tricky thing is you do have a little rubber isolator here that this mounts onto, and that's part of this tube, and that holds it in place. So, and I would imagine is going to keep a lot of vibration and everything from shaking around. And by doing that, there is space all the way around. It doesn't touch the shield, which I think is probably a good thing. It's not going to keep heat from the engine coming out too much, some degree. This filter is a non-oiled filter. It's certainly going to let more particulate in than the original, but the right piece of resistance is I can now fit my brake booster and my master cylinder in, and they fit just fine. So I got a lot of new bling on this side of the engine, but everything fits now, and that was the whole point. And so it does get you a bunch more room, and that was kind of the point. So we'll see as I go to run this. I'm sure it will be a little bit louder, and it probably has the potential to not be as good a filter as the paper filters. You can wash this, but it's just going to let some stuff through. So I'm going to have to pay attention, and that's just kind of the downfall. The clamps all worked fine. Everything worked fine. So, in general, I'd say the kit works. It's a lot cheaper off this eBay one, and the pieces all work. But we'll see when I drive it, and I got to get my brakes. I got some brakes before I can drive it. So I got to finish up this brake kit, and then I'll drive it, and I'll give you a recap on this. But it looks like it's going to be okay. I said the downside is it's not going to add any more horsepower. They kind of say it does, but there's no way. You do have to run the potential of not filtering the air as well. So in some ways, it's just, you're going to be a little louder, not going to filter as well, but it does get you a lot more room, and, looks cool. But outside of that, it's not going to really do anything performance-wise. I'll finish this up, getting that mounted. I got to go to the store and get some little screws for that, and we'll have a new cold air intake. All right, so my installation on the cold air intake is done. Obviously, it's all in. It's all attached. It's been working just fine. I would say that on the performance side, I can't say that it's adding any additional performance to the car. It is louder. You do definitely pick up the noise from this when you're driving, especially when you kind of give it the juice. It is a little loud, or louder, and it feels like it's a little more responsive, but that's hard to say. It doesn't really make any sense that it would be, because your valves can only handle so much air, and the original box was giving it to it. So, but it has worked with giving me the room that I needed. So in that sense, it is just fine. And technically, it is a little higher than my old inlet, so will give me a little bit more room in the water. So hopefully that is a good thing as well. So would I recommend a cold air intake for your 2.5 liter? Probably not. It's not going to do anything for you on the performance wise, and it's a little noisier. But it did give me the room I needed, and I'm willing to take that to be able to get my brake job done. So in terms of it works. And the one that I picked up off eBay, which is kind of a knockoff, is just fine, and a heck of a lot cheaper than the name brand, and it essentially is the exact same thing. So hopefully that's helpful, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.